Do you think there's going to be a long-term impact if the cost of living in California stay what it is compared to the incomes?
Yes, absolutely. I think more and more people are struggling. In fact, we have a very high percentage of poverty in California, which, people don't talk about. And, many people will talk about the working poor. It's not just about the working poor. It's also, when we're talking about poverty, we're talking about disabled individuals. We're talking about seniors on fixed income. We're talking about people who are struggling. My generation is struggling to support their families and their parents that are aging, as well as potentially start their family, purchase a home, or whatever the case may be. And they're making decisions that are incredibly crucial in their life and their family, which is either not starting a family, not purchasing a home, not being able to take care of their elders, and potentially even moving out of the state or out of the area. And so, we genuinely have a very difficult time as a society as to, okay, what is causing this? What are the pressures? And like I said, some of them are things we can control, and some of them are things we cannot control, and some of them are very cyclical.
Can you explain these factors?
There's a number of issues. When we're talking about housing, we're talking about supply and demand, but it's not just supply and demand. We are behind our production in housing, first and foremost. But then when we are producing housing, who are we producing housing for? In my district, a home on average can cost $1.4 million. Can a teacher afford that? No, right?
Especially with this mortgage rate now.
Yes, especially with the high interest rates.
Because it will be $10,000 a month of mortgage for.
Potentially, depending on down payment,
taxes,
of course, right?
Mortgage, yeah.
Property taxes, also a lot of the utilities and much more. And even, I like to focus on people who are even more vulnerable than people who can purchase a home. Renters. I'm a renter. And I will say that renters, for example, are dealing with multiple different junk fees, right? And I call them junk fees because they are. 20 years ago, renters didn't have to pay a monthly fee to have a pet. Now they pay a monthly fee to have a pet. They pay a monthly fee to park their car in a carport, not even a garage, but just a space. And how much are they paying? Here in Sacramento, in some of the complexes, is about $175 to $250. In the Bay Area, depending on which city.
For your car or your
just pet? A monthly, just to be able to park your car where you live.
So that's just to exclude it from the rent cost, $250.
Yes, it could be $175. It depends on which complex. It could be $100. In the Bay Area, they may give you a parking spot, and then you pay $50 a month. You could pay $100 a month. This fee didn't exist 20 years ago. And then we also have a pet fee, not only a security deposit. Let's say if your dog or cat or pet, destroyed property, you used to put a pet security deposit of $500, $1,000, maybe even $1,500. Now, not only do you do the security deposit of the pet, but you also pay monthly to have a pet, right? And so renters, I think, are actually suffering more than homeowners in many ways, right? Because they are not building equity. They are literally throwing money away. And so when we're talking about who is a renter, renters are, young people. They are seniors. They are people who potentially want to start a family but aren't there yet. They are people who are trying to earn money and save money for a down payment, but they are never going to be able to get the $170,000 down payment that they need to buy these homes. And so it's almost a system that's built not for poor people. It is a system that is based on a lot of, again, fees and bureaucratic systems that don't work for the people. And I think more and more people are frustrated. And so even the utility hikes, as state lawmakers, we have no authority over utility companies, right? We can push laws and try to do our best around that, but the rate hikes are done by a commission that doesn't even really report to the people, right? And for example, we've heard in the news that there may be a fifth rate hike in 1 year for utility companies. And so what are we doing when we're talking about, profit versus greed, right? Obviously, this is the United States. We believe that everyone should be able to make a dollar. However, we also have to see, who is struggling, who is suffering. And as policymakers, we're supposed to protect the most vulnerable community, right? We are supposed to protect seniors. And I will say we are supposed to protect children. We're supposed to protect women and working people. And I will say this, our senior population is one of our fastest demographics in the growing homeless population. Our seniors are one of the fastest growing demographics that are going back into the workforce. So when you go to Denny's and when you go to Safeway and you're buying your groceries, who's working the counter?
You see older people.
Older people. It's not teenagers anymore. These are part-time jobs or low-paying jobs, right? And I say this all the time to my colleagues to say that, we need to do more. And so, for example, I have a number of bills that I introduced this past year, many of them signed by the governor, that, make sure that, for example, nursing homes can't reject you if you're on Medi-Cal, which is quite a significant amount of seniors on Medi-Cal, right? That did not have a retirement plan or save up enough and so forth. And because insurance companies' reimbursement rates don't reimburse at higher levels for Medi-Cal patients versus, private insurance companies, right? And I highlight this because we continue to see the problem where if you are poor, the system doesn't work for you, right? And I think that it's my job to be able to introduce policies that help more and more people across the board.